The Mafia series is a beloved property amongst gamers, and it's no wonder.
Break every bone in their bodies.
Gonna shoot you right down, right off of your feet.
An exceptional gaming experience. However, there isn't one amongst them that stands out as being the most hated of the series, and that is the final installment, Mafia 3. Many players across the internet voiced that it's this one indeed that is the weakest part of the series, so I want to investigate. Is Mafia 3 truly a bad game, and if so, what makes it such? Mafia 3 is a unique installment in the series, as while it does revolve around the Italian mob and the commission that was set up to organize it, the player follows more closely Lincoln Clay's mission to get revenge and end the commission in New Bordeaux. This is a big step away from the previous installments and is probably the first point of contention when it comes to the game's detractors. Many were expecting a similar gambit as the first two games and a closer look and involvement with the commission and Mafia. This particular entry exemplifies the idea that people like different things or different strokes for different folks, even if it's for the same reasons. There are some people who can only see the flaws and aren't able to get into the game, and then there's the others who can look past the problems. The game holds a unique status among the series and lives in a sort of limbo state as you either love it or hate it, and let me get my bias out of the way now. I love this game, and nearly everything about it, but I want to take a more objective look and see why others disagreed with its direction. The two main parts of the game that people thoroughly enjoyed all around are the soundtrack and narrative. The soundtrack is a journey back through time to the Vietnam era, and when driving through the city listening to Chain of Fools or some CCR is just so fitting and immersive. The narrative is another stellar saga through the underbelly of organized crime. It also uses the soundtrack to its advantage and builds incredible hype for the adventure unfolding. The cutscene to really start it all off plays Bad Moon Rising by Creedence Clearwater Revival. It is so fitting and spot on, it gave me chills just watching it. Or just as everything is being burnt down, the Rolling Stones' Painted Black is playing, and it couldn't be more hype-inducing. The journey can feel grindy at times, but the refined characters and storyline is what carries the game through to the end for many. Personally, I love the inclusion of Vito Scaletta, and Lincoln Clay is an all-around great protagonist, fitting for such a Mafia game. With his backstory, Clay and CIA agent Donovan, and the Vietnam War, and relationship with Father James carries the story and adds depth to its narrative. There's also the mention that everyone plays their roles so well. The voice acting is incredible from start to finish and has a diverse group of characters the whole way through. The writing is also spot on, and all characters are robust and well written. There's also the added bonus of inclusion if you're concerned about that sort of thing. Lincoln Clay is maybe among the few protagonists of color in all of gaming, and he couldn't be a more welcomed character, and for me was more impactful than even Vito Scaletta. The way in which the story is told is worthy of note as well, via both modern-day cutscenes featuring the congressional investigation and present-day explorations of Lincoln's actions and mob affiliation. These two work together to fully deliver a narrative that honestly is the best among the three games in my opinion, and when coupled with the immersive quality of the soundtrack and some gameplay elements, it's really up there with the whole of gaming in my opinion, despite it being really a simple tale of vengeance. The area of Mafia 3 where gamers disagree to its efficacy is the gameplay. Upon release and for a short while thereafter, the game was awfully buggy, which already left many with a bad taste in their mouths, considering how polished the previous two experiences were. There was a long time between when these bugs were noticed and fixed, to which further turned players off. But now, playing through the game once more, the polish is finally there, after many updates and DLCs. Could it have been released in a better state? Sure. But even with the bugs, the gameplay is pretty on point. The physics are great, and behind every bullet is real impact and weight. Whether you're playing for picks or sprinting in gung-ho, the gunplay is incredibly satisfying and will surely leave you wanting more. There exists too an incredibly flawed stealth mechanic which was so broken, and much of the game leaves you little ability to utilize it. It was bad enough that I basically ran into every encounter like a bat out of hell. The problems with the gameplay revolve more so around the loop. This particular loop seems to have taken a page or two from Ubisoft's book and has the player running around various control points, reducing the value of a particular racket. Once reduced, a boss appears and Clay can dispose and replace them with who the player chooses of their 3 underbosses, which introduces the player to another mechanic in that they have to keep these bosses happy for more bonuses to their offerings. The gameplay is a total grind, and if you're into that thing, it's not too bad depending. The weight behind the combat helps carry you through the grind and delivers glimpses to the ongoing narrative. Next is the so-called open world. The game touts as part of its marketing that it features a vast and open environment of New Bordeaux to explore. Unfortunately, it's not so open as it would make you assume. It's more open than previous games, and you are finally given the chance to explore a Mafia world at your whim. It winds up being as shallow as the bayou. There are some places of the world, especially within the city like the French Quarter, that are truly unique and fun to be in, but aside from that and the swamps, everything is awfully samey, and the grind just adds to the repetitiveness. It's all very predictable as well for a crime story. Strip clubs, chop shops, and dope warehouses all add to the boring world. All the stores and buildings look the same, and after you've explored the Hollow, you've basically seen it all. For many, the grind and repetitiveness of the world can really drive down the experience. The grind can really dissuade people from playing any game. This all circles back to Mafia 3 being relatively black or white, love or hate it. Most people who love it for the narrative, and most people that hate it recognize the good narrative, but are completely turned off by the gameplay loop. It comes back to different strokes for different folks. For me at least, the grind was heavily alleviated by the immersion and the story, but many I know could not deal with the grind and subsequently stopped playing. Hangar 13 could have done a lot more to make the gameplay interesting, but it's clear the game was rushed, and especially upon release, a buggy mess. This really takes away from the game, and sadly does not do its story justice. With its flaws, Mafia 3 still stands among the best in the series. Of course, with the entire series now being remastered, they're all stellar games on par with one another. To many, this entry is the weakest in the series. However, there is enough in the game that makes it stand out from its predecessors, and at a minimum does an excellent job at carrying forth the torch that was once held by Tommy and Vito. The writing is top-notch along with the narrative, the gunplay is pretty well done, and even the open world has some charm to explore. It also does a decent job at expanding the universe and setting it further apart from the games that came before it. So for me, I think this game is undeserving of its negative perception, and while it's likely the end is here, I would quickly jump back into any Mafia experience. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you in the next one.